Google shares are up this morning after beating sales and earnings estimates. Paul Meeks is with us. He is an analyst at Capstone Investments, does own shares of Google. Paul, you've said in the past you like Google. Obviously, your firm holds it, but you're just not going to buy any more. Does this latest set of results make you think twice?
Well, I'm always interested in being a contrarian investor, so I bought it much lower. Today, the stock looks like it's going to open at about $5.90. I can make a case that it's going higher, though I probably, despite all the good news released last night in the quarterly conference call and the press release, I probably wouldn't touch it here. It's had such a big move off the bottom.
All right, so it's mostly a valuation call that you're making, because it seems pretty significant that Google showed upside on the bottom line for the first time.
Yeah, it's really impressive. Not only in this tough economic environment is their core business doing well, but their innovative businesses, particularly what they're doing with display ads and also in the mobile space, have really started to show some gains.
Yeah, we heard the Senior Vice President for Product Management, Jonathan Rosenberg, say display revenue on pace to top $2.5 billion annually, mobile ad sales to exceed $1 billion. What kind of numbers would you have to see where you feel like the valuation gets interesting enough, the growth outlook?
Well, the way I look at it is when you back out the company's cash, and also if you put a 15 multiple on the 2011 earnings, you get a stock that's probably worth about $5.50. Now, the stock's going to open up at $5.90, so I don't think it's grossly expensive. But if I got back to $5.40, $5.50, I think I'd become most interested.
YouTube, we got the breakdown too, Paul. I guess it's worth making the point. I mean, in the past, the company never really broke down the revenue for all these different, display ads, banner, interactive. I mean, they seem a little bit more interested in transparency, or at least communication with the Wall Street community than before. We know YouTube video site gets 2 billion views per week that earn money. Is that a kind of big benchmark for you, or were you waiting to see any kind of figure? But the company's still not saying if they're profitable or not there.
Yeah, it's obviously a hot site, and it's nice to see that they're finally monetizing it, because as we know in the internet space, you can talk about clicks, you can talk about traction of all sorts, but it comes down to, is it making money and is it generating cash? And it looks like the investment is finally paying off.
What do you make of the idea that Google is obviously having a lot of success in the markets it's in, but it seems like still is struggling with its situation in China and in Russia? How big of an albatross around its neck is this emerging markets problem for them?
Well, the issue is, as we all know, is some countries are much tighter on their privacy policies. And when you get things like Google Maps and other functionality, it's a potentially big issue. When you think about it with China over time, not only is the population so large vis-a-vis that of the United States, but the economy is growing so fast that you want to embrace that market and never have any kind of obstacles in your way. So I worry about that longer term.
All right, Paul, quick last question here. What do you make of their diversification? I mean, it seems like Google is still spending money like it's the good times. I mean, they're in a war for talent. They're recruiting. They're spending on different products. I mean, Android, but also a car that drives itself, economic indicators, wind power. As an investor, how do you feel about that?
Well, some of the things like electric cars and wind power, if it's out of their circle of competence, I worry a little bit more about it. But think about some of the things that are more closely related to the core business that they've invested in. That innovation is clearly paying off. And so I like the fact that they take some bold bets and invest money and hire people to address markets. They've been pretty strong in their innovation.
Paul, thanks so much for the time this morning. Appreciate it. Paul Meeks joining us there from Capstone Investments.